We're only halfway through the year, but it's been an exciting and productive year in advocacy. It started off early in the year with NCUA finalizing the member business lending rule, which is going to remove from regulation a lot of requirements that aren't in the law. Some of the changes went into effect in May, and others are going into effect at the end of the year, but the bottom line is that regulation will remove a lot of barriers for credit unions so that they can better serve their business lending members. We've also been very encouraged by the work that's been done on field of membership. The agency made a proposal late last year, and credit unions responded with more than 8,000 comment letters in support of the proposal. A fantastic response that we hope will provide some momentum to finalizing that rule in September or October. And this is going to expand credit unions' ability to serve their members, and it's a very positive step for credit unions. We've also seen some progress on some smaller items. For example, for the first time, NCUA has published the methodology behind the overhead transfer rate, so that credit unions and other stakeholders can comment on how the agency is using its money to operate the budget. The new NCUA chairman, Rick Metzger, has also made an announcement that later this year the agency is going to hold a board briefing on the agency's budget, and they're going to allow stakeholders like CUNA and credit unions to participate in that briefing and express our views on the budget. A very positive step, again, that has been a result of years of advocacy. Another area where we've seen a lot of progress is on supervisory issues. So for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been calling for greater fairness in the examination process. We've had legislation on the Hill. We've talked to lawmakers and regulators about this. And NCUA is taking steps in the right direction to address the frequency of exams and the fairness of exams, and to modernize the process in general. So we were really encouraged when Chairman Metzger appointed the supervisory group at NCUA and tasked them with looking at all parts of the supervisory process. We were also encouraged when they removed the calendar year requirement for examinations. Again, another step towards removing barriers for credit unions. We've also seen some progress at the CFPB. Sometimes it's not as easy to see it at the Bureau, but we have. It started earlier this year when at the GAC we asked credit union advocates to go to the Hill and ask members of Congress to send the CFPB director a letter regarding the Bureau's exemption authority. We think the CFPB has much more authority than they've used to date to exempt credit unions from its rulemakings. And 329 members of the House of Representatives agreed with us. They sent a letter urging the Bureau to use its exemption authority with a greater alacrity. And the good news is that in the CFPB's payday proposal, we believe that they've used that authority for the first time. They didn't go nearly as far as we think they should or could go, but it's a good first step to recognizing that they have the authority under Section 1022 of the Dodd-Frank Act to make these types of exemptions. We're going to use that to push them a little bit further, not just on the payday rule, but on other rulemakings. Credit unions haven't abused consumers, so they shouldn't be subject to the rules that are designed for the abusers of consumers. We've made all of this progress, both at the CFPB and NCUA, thanks to our friends in Congress helping us, and thanks to credit union advocates across the country participating in the process, not just this year, but for the last several years. We're also making progress in the judicial branch, where we have seen positive court decisions in our Home Depot case that affirmed our standing to sue Home Depot for their data breaches. And we've also seen positive decisions on our interchange surcharging cases, where the Texas court agreed with us that the merchants don't have a free First Amendment right to surcharge. All positive things that we're doing to try to remove barriers for credit unions. So one of the reasons why we've been able to have all this progress in advocacy is that about 2 or 3 years ago we changed our approach a bit. We started to look at issues in the public policy sector from a 360-degree approach, which means that we're not just looking at them as legislative or regulatory or judicial issues, but we're looking at them as advocacy issues, as credit union issues, and we're applying resources from all different perspectives. So we're taking advantage of our very significant grassroots presence, but we're also taking advantage of the experts that we have here in Washington and across the country. And we're surrounding the issue. That's what we call the 360-degree approach. And because we're doing that, we're not worried about just solving the issue, having Congress solve the issue for us, or having the regulator solve the issue for us, but we're trying to get to the best solution through whatever mechanism we can in the public policy sector. So we have taken a little bit of a different approach. So this year in particular, what that's meant is that we've been using Congress more than we have in the past to influence the regulatory process. Whether it has been the 329 members that wrote the CFPB on the exemption authority, or the more than a dozen members that wrote the NCUA on field of membership, we've been trying to use that type of pressure to influence the process, recognizing that frankly Congress isn't doing much legislating right now, but members of Congress are looking for things to do to help us in the public policy sector. Another thing that's changed this year is a much closer interaction with our league partners. Whether it's at GAC or Hike the Hill, CUNA and the leagues are working more closely together. We're meeting more frequently to make sure that we're on the same page when we're going to the Hill or we're meeting with CFPB. That interdependent relationship has gotten so much stronger, and that has also contributed greatly to our successes. So as we look forward into 2017 and beyond, I think there are a number of things that we'll focus on from an advocacy perspective. We are in the process of putting together a charter enhancement effort. It's been about 20 years since the Federal Credit Union Act has been meaningfully updated. So we've got a group of our members, the Credit Union Powers Subcommittee and the Advocacy Committee, that are looking at different improvements that may be necessary in the charter. And we'll be working with different folks within the system to get support for those and ultimately bring them before Congress or the regulators wherever is necessary. We're also going to continue our focus on the CFPB to make sure first that the rules that they're putting out have minimal impact on credit unions. As we mentioned, credit unions aren't abusing consumers, so they shouldn't be subject to the rules designed for abusers of consumers. And we want to make sure also that the structure of the CFPB is appropriate to achieve the goals of the agency. We want to make sure that that instead of a single director, that there's a board, that there is appropriate oversight under the appropriations process. All of these things are things we'll be continuing to work on. Also in 2017 and beyond, I think we're going to continue to look at how our litigation strategy might help us achieve our public policy goals. We've engaged in lawsuits on interchange surcharging, on the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and on data breach. In fact, we just joined a suit last week on Wendy's, suing Wendy's for their data breach. We'll be looking at this, I think, in a more comprehensive manner to develop a litigation strategy that helps us achieve our public policy goals.